This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
In other news of podcasts that I'm making, I just did a great crossover episode with my mom's podcast, Used to Sew, because she wanted to talk about Bernadette Banner, the YouTube account, who did a full reconstruction of Moraine's season 1 outfit from just screenshots of the show. She's a drafter and costumer, and she actually breaks the costume down, figures out how to make it, sews it together by hand, because that's what the late 17th century technology that Robert Jordan picked for the books would have you use. Although there are invisible zippers, apparently, which is really funny. It was a really cool video. So I got to rant about Wheel of Time in the context of sewing to the sewing audience. I got to be like, okay, guys, so none of you know about Wheel of Time. So just, okay, Gandalf is a lady and Aragorn is her magic bodyguard, and she wears blue because magic categories. It was such a funny, crossover intersection thing yet again. So that's what I was doing earlier today. So I'm in a talkative mood now.
Oh, good. Because I'll let you carry this episode. Of course, whenever I say that, I end up talking more than not talking, but whatever.
Every time.
I'm so bad when I think I'm not. I'm like, I don't have anything to say. 3 hours later.
You were just saying you have very dense notes on this chapter. There's a lot to talk about in this chapter.
I have dense highlights. I'm not sure I have as much to say about it, right? This is one of those chapters where a lot is happening, but it's... to me, it's pretty straightforward, and also I don't have a lot of conclusions. I have a lot of notes and stuff I looked up, and I didn't really conclude anything.
I think this chapter is conclusion.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Because we are Sanderlanching very hard towards the end, so it's just sort of pure rush at this point, but also the rush of Shirion being unveiled in an incredibly dramatic way. We as the audience have known she's Black Aja. Egwene even told Swan that she was Black Aja, but this is unveiling her in front of the hall as a very dramatic set piece. And we've known this was coming, and it is satisfying to see, but how much are we going to have to say about it? Check the runtime to see how silly we're being right now.
Well, and what's always amazing to me is, really solidifying her legacy of, she's the Amyrlin who came in and killed 1/5 of us. Right?
That is a very intense legacy.
Don't cross her.
It's she's the Amyrlin that presides over both rebuilding after the worst attack ever and murdering their way to purity. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, she was Amyrlin for a week, and in that time 20% of them are killed. Ridiculous. Well, and then all the ones that die in the last battle too. I mean, if we're summarizing her whole
let's be
10
honest,
years of hypothetical week,
God.
She also is the Amyrlin for the last battle, which is really hard on their numbers.
I would love to get some hard numbers on how many Aes Sedai are alive at the beginning of the series versus how many are alive at the end of the series. and not counting all the new ones and stuff that come up, but of the ones that are alive at the beginning and are Aes Sedai at the beginning, how many of them make it to the end?
11. I mean, probably, right?
It's not a lot. And certainly we're talking about 20%, but 20% of the rebels Aes Sedai, but there's also 20% of the Tower Aes Sedai, and a lot of them escape to fight in the last battle, where they are then killed or sequestered into a Ogier setting for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, which is not most of them.
No, that's a small
most of
group,
them are crispy crunchy by the end.
There's really not a lot of forces for the dark that survive this thing. They really, the Shan Chan are ruthless about rounding up the last survivors and just going to town on them.
Yeah, the dark side doesn't have a lot of reasons to preserve its numbers for after. The good guys do need people to be left at the end to put the world back together, but the dark doesn't in the same way.
Just make more Trollocs.
Yeah, exactly. You've got semi-immortal Forsaken and Dreadlords that can easily be given a second life because of their association with the Dark One. Like, you don't have to worry about preserving them as you try to take over the world.
Well, do you want to get into this chapter, read us in, and start talking about...
Let's get towards the, end of Shiriam's tenure as keeper. All right, chapter 43, Sealed to the Flame. And our symbol is the Flame of Tarvalon. Egwene sat quietly in her tent, hands in her lap. She controlled her shock, her burning anger, and her incredulity. Plump, pretty Chesa sat silently on a cushion in the corner, sewing embroidery on the hem of one of Egwene's dresses, looking as content as a person could be, now that her mistress had returned. The tent was secluded, set in its own grove within the Aes Sedai camp. Egwene had allowed no attendants beside Chesa this morning. She had even turned away Swan, who had undoubtedly come to offer some kind of apology. Egwene needed time to think, to prepare, and to deal with her failure. And it was a failure. Yes, it had been forced on her by others, but those others were her followers and friends. They would know her anger for their part in this fiasco. But first she needed to look inward, to judge what she should have done better. She sat in her wooden chair, high-backed, with scrollwork patterns across the armrests. Her tent was as she had left it, desk orderly, blankets folded, pillows stacked in the corner, obviously kept dusted by Chesa, like a museum used to instruct children of days past. And I'll cut it there. I thought I should just read through that chair line, because we've been tracking Egwene's chair this whole time, right? Now she's got a wooden chair that's high-backed rather than a rickety folding camp stool.
Right. Much more sturdy, much more, Her place in the Rebels is well established. However, she still doesn't have the Amyrlin seat quite yet. The full one.
It is still just a wooden chair,
yeah.
but it is, not a folding camp chair. It's not on the verge of collapsing. She's got a back she can rest against. Like, it's which, as we see, she's got a much firmer hold on these women than when she left.
Still wish we had something on Chesa that was a little more concrete. Because she's not, like, there's so much evidence that she's not a dark friend, right? She's clearly this, and then there's this weirdness where Egwene thinks she was appointed by Shiriam, but then and the way the other two are killed and she's left behind, it seems like she's a spy for the Forsaken, right?
I mean, she is the textbook definition of a red herring.
Right.
Really. There's absolutely nothing happening there. And yet she is so suspicious by circumstance.
I want her to be something. If nothing else, I want her to be like, oh yeah, no, I was sent by, like Rand or something to help you out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the absolute lack of anything is amazing.
And in a lot of ways is so appropriate. Like, there has to be, in all this plotting and people pulling strings and doing everything, Chesa just wants to be a good servant to Egwene. And there's got to be those people in the mix, too. It's just making me pull my hair out.
Chat. Shiriam ended up just being the red-haired Fitzpant. I'm banning it. Yeah, but I mean, it's a red herring recursion, right? Because Shiriam seemed so trustable, and then she's so bad, and so clearly Chesa has to be bad too, and then no, Chase's actually just trustable. Like, but no, it feels a little unsatisfying that there's no big reveal with Chesa, but also, like, it does kind of make sense to have not every character have a big reveal, I guess.
Right. And I feel like, well, I was going to say, in the beginning, it made sense if there was some question over who Halima, which Forsaken, which character the Forsaken was. We're like, is it Halima? Is it Chesa? Except we get like a POV from Halima right away, and we know who it is immediately. It's never really, it's one of the things that's not a mystery.
There wasn't a slow burn on that.
So it's like, you set up red herring, but then told us the answer, so...
It's like one of those little kids like telling you a secret, being like, I have a secret, it's blah blah blah, and you're like, well, now it's not a secret, is it?
I'm not supposed to tell anyone. Well, you did.
Yeah.
She has the oath rod, although she doesn't say what the oath rod is.
It's pretty obvious, though.
Well, for a second, I thought it was Vora's ter'angreal. I was like, oh.
I guess, yeah. She's going to absolutely annihilate any of her enemies.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Is like,
be gone.
if you're taking out the Black Oddjaw, you might want the most powerful ter'angreal ever made, right?
Yeah. No, I feel like, no, you're right. It does kind of leave it up to the last minute. Like, what is she going to take out of her sleeve pocket? Is it going to be, a weapon of total domination, or is it just going to be the Oath Rod?
Or the ter'angreal that makes balefire. That would be fun, though that's a black one, I think.
Yeah, that one's not around, so I think that one's still in Darkfriend hands. Do we think that Egwene is as to blame for all of this as she thinks she is?
Oh my god, I don't like this part of the chapter. This whole
Okay, good. Excellent.
This section of the chapter is part of what drives people nuts about Egwene. The rationalization, I don't know, just this like, do I deserve?
Yeah, I don't like this part either. I find this very much not I can't tell if this has always been a part of Egwene that's just coming out more strongly under Sanderson's writing, or if this is really a bad interpretation of who she is. I'm not sure, but this whole I am responsible for other people's actions thing is like, I am personally prone to taking on so much responsibility for other people's actions that I should not. And I've been really these past 2 days really just being like, I apologize for things that are not my fucking fault, that no one asked me to apologize for. And like to have her be like, you know what I should do? Apologize for things that aren't my fault. It's like, Egwene, I've been looking up to you for so long. This is not the lesson I want to be learning from you right now. I'm trying to learn the opposite from this. You know?
But I think also what bugs me is that she cannot admit that other people that she might not know everything, right? That her plan wasn't perfect, and that maybe getting pulled out at that time was something that needed to happen. She's like, you have ruined everything. Everything's going crazy. And maybe I just didn't communicate well enough to let you know. And it's like, maybe you didn't, but also like maybe they used their own judgment to pull you out when things got really bad. And that's okay.
And in her defense, she is 19, and I did have that sort of all or nothing approach to everything that everyone did when I was 19. Like, you didn't do what I wanted to have happen, therefore my life is ruined, is like a very 19-year-old way to look at things. But also she's like, I am the Amerlin, I've been trained by all these wise women, and the amalgamation of their wisdom is to take all the responsibility on myself. And I don't know.
And the other thing that I don't necessarily like about this is all this angst kind of goes away because they end up accepting her as Amerlin anyway. So all this like back and forth angst about who to blame, where it's like, you're going to be Amerlin here in a second anyway, because she doesn't know that Elyda's gone, right? She says she doesn't know if Elyda's still in charge, and she's going to act like Elyda's still in charge. When it's like, no, you don't need to, because she's gone. She's been kidnapped. She's like,
well, but she doesn't know that. She has no way of knowing that. Like, she has every reason to think that the tower is going to only take this as a minor setback. She has no idea that they're inside deciding to give up. I mean, that to me is the tension of this, is like, will the tower get their decision out in time to not be attacked? I'm really conflicted about how Egwene approaches the goblin and swan of it all.
Right.
I don't even know how I feel about it. I know that I don't want her to model this behavior for me, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, what that says about me. I just know that it makes me uncomfortable.
Right. And it's just the whole reasoning that goes on in her head. It's like, it just doesn't feel like the Egwene that I know, you know? The Egwene that gets written in these last 3 books does not care about her friends in the way the Egwene before these books did. And I know everyone's going to say she's always been that way. She's always been ambitious. She's always been willing to run away from people. But she always cared about her friends. And she cared about Egwene. She cared about Rand, even if she was like trying to get power so she could support him, right? But now there's just this lack of giving a shit about her friends. It's all about being the powerful, being the Amerlin.
Which I think might be true to the Amerlin seat. I think that might be something she tried to do to herself because she thinks that that's what the seat demands. So I don't know if it's untrue to her character because she doesn't ever do anything half-assed.
Yeah, but where's the loyalty back to the Two Rivers, right? Like,
yeah, it's kind of gone.
It's kind of gone. And that to me is like, it's not that this is out of character. It's that there was another layer to the character that I feel like is gone, is stripped away.
Yeah, which, again, I do kind of feel like she does speedrun Swan's career as Tomlin, which is losing herself, losing important parts of herself, missing out on having a well-rounded human existence. Like, in a way, this is very true to that. This is her hollowing herself out to serve the institution until she literally goes out in a blaze of glory. And I mean, she sounds more and more like Swan in these last 3 books. Her and Swan have a much more similar voice, particularly the Swan of a few books ago. Like, again, Egwene half-asses nothing. She takes on the Swan that burned Swan out and mimics that, but again, on a speed run. And thus we get the end we get. So, like...
And talking about the end, just very briefly, I don't understand why the sacrifice was necessary, why she had to use that much power. It was not clear to me in the text that she couldn't have used that same weave to do the same thing, just on a slightly smaller scale, and not burn herself out.
Yeah.
And don't tell me it's because Gawain, because fuck that. There's a Aes Sedai here who's like, oh yeah, I'm sad, but I'm going on anyway, right? Like,
again, doesn't barely even get to turn 20. Like, Ada Lorna is probably in her 60s, if not older. She's got that much more life experience. Egwene acts like she can just absorb the lived experience of every single elderly woman she's ever met. But, like, the fact of the matter is, she's not even 25. She's not even old enough to drink in our society.
But I get it. Like, the warders have the whole suicide thing, but it just shouldn't affect the Aes Sedai in the same way. It makes them feel pain, yes, and sad and like mourning, but not the suicidal tendencies that she clearly embraced.
But having your husband die can make a lot of people feel very suicidal. She blended the two. She did not go through the Green Aja 5-year advanced course on how to have your spouse be your warder. She just did it impulsively without going through all the prereqs, and like, it destroyed her psyche.
I think she's a stronger character than that.
I don't know. I do know that I don't like Gawain, and I really like the part where she says, I don't know how I feel about you, and we need to talk later.
And then they never do. Do you like that part too?
No, I don't like that part. I don't like that part. I don't like the part where she says, I need to talk later, and he forces her to talk now. I'm like, shut the fuck up. She's wearing her headphones and she has sunglasses on. She does not want to talk to you, even though you're both waiting for the same bus. Get the fuck out.
No, and I see the mirror with the Queen Eldrine. I guess my problem with it, it didn't seem like she needed to pull in that much power to seal the cracks.
But she wanted to pull a Queen Eldrine. She specifically wanted to imitate her ancient forebearer, spiritually speaking, Queen Eldrine.
Anyway, I don't like it. I don't think she should have been killed. I don't think the stakes were high enough for her to sacrifice herself. I think the stakes could have been set up better. I understand why the parallel was there, but I think the stakes should have been higher for her to sacrifice herself.
Well, we'll rant about that when we get there. For now, I want to rant about how she will not let herself physically move because she had to be reserved at all times, lest she unwittingly fall into bad habits. And as someone who's going on their autism unmasking journey, which involves not masking your physical movements and physical expression, I'm just like, again, Egwene, I have looked up to you for so many years of my life. Please stop modeling toxic behaviors that I'm actively trying to root out of my psyche. Please stop saying that this is a good thing.
Yeah, but here's the thing. She's in the boardroom. She's at a board meeting. She has to mask.
She's literally not. She's literally in a room with Chaisa.
Uh-oh.
She's literally saying, I have to behave like I'm in a boardroom 24/7. And as I have learned on my unmasking journey, that is the path to burnout. You have to have time where you can be yourself and be unmasked and be relaxed around people who care about you. Being alone in a tent with Chesa is perfect. Perfect.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, she used to be that way around Suan. She used to be that way around Chesa. She used to have this relaxed moment. And now she's coming back, and it's not, there's that loss of humanity somehow.
Yeah, I think she spent too much time in the dream thinking of herself as the Amerlin and not enough time sleeping like a 19-year-old.
But somehow she reshaped herself with all those night quests. Yeah.
Yeah. She's too much time in the dream shaping her psyche around delusions of grandeur and not enough just sleeping. Like, you're 19, you're barely done growing. Sleep more. Oh no, I gotta push myself harder. I can't afford to give in to sleep. Yeah, I know that you physically can, but it's not good for you.
Oh, see, my headcanon is that she was kind of like, she was dream sleeping at night and then sleeping during the day.
When was she doing all her plot stuff and traveling and building up her power base and taking lessons?
Oh, I was thinking when she was like just in the prison itself, right?
I'm talking about like her entire arc.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good point.
She's just spent so much time being like, I don't need to sleep. I'll just be in the dream world. I'll just be actively taking notes on my dreams. Like, she just never just zonks the fuck out like a 19-year-old is supposed to.
And I guess she wasn't actually in that prison. We went back and figured out it was not that many days.
It was like 3 days.
Yeah, it was like 3 days.
Yeah, it was like 3 days. Yeah. No.
Maybe she got a little bit of rest. A little bit of rest in the prison.
Yeah. And I feel like if she'd had wise ones observing her during her arc in the rebel camp, they would have been scolding her intensely for the way that she was not sleeping properly. I mean, the way she hid headaches from them after the Lanfear attack.
You're right.
She's been disobeying the safety protocols of the Dreamwalkers more or less since she learned how to dreamwalk. Like, I don't believe that she's been taking good enough care of her psyche. Like, no wonder she's bending out of shape and just becoming an archetype of annoying power structure things rather than a human being.
Yeah, she's becoming fragile, right? She's getting harder in the parlance of Rand, right? She's
the way that she's Randing harder than Rand ever could.
Right?
In some ways.
From the trauma, from the responsibility, from the masking. Like, he's kind of breaking and building himself back up. She just breaks and dies.
It's being bendable versus brittle, right? I mean, this is kind of the difference between her and Elida, right? Like, she can bend better than Elida, and yeah.
Which she says right here, if Egwene looked like a statue unaffected by the winds, it was actually because she saw how to bend with those winds. She gave the illusion of control, right? She talks about how she's bendable here, but it's like, you're really not. Really not.
She's bending her own humanity to fit the role. She's not bending the world to adapt to her humanity, right? She is sacrificing her very free will to the institution rather than saying, I have boundaries. I will work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and you cannot call me on weekends, right? She's on call 24/7.
Literally, because in her sleep, she's still working.
Literally. It's her and Perrin and Rand really all do double duty with their sleep time, and I'm amazed Perrin is as well rested and psychically sound as he is, given how much time he spends not truly sleeping.
He spent a huge chunk trying to plot out the wolf dream. He's only now jumping back into it, right?
True. He's had very fleeting contact up until now. It's been intense, but it's been broken up with large swaths of not doing that. Yeah. And maybe it's fine to sacrifice yourself to an institution because the last battle is coming. Maybe that's a reasonable choice. But again, I look up to Egwene, and it's hard to see her choosing to do things that I'm like, but that's so bad for you. That's so unhealthy for your nervous system. I need to not follow you into this behavior as much as I admire you.
Yeah, because I've never really found Egwene to be a role model, right? It's never someone I've decided, I want to follow her example.
It's specifically the clean the patch of floor in front of you scene. Like, that's been so, like, I hang so much of my, like, dealing with the existential angst of the world on that scene. She carries that scene, so yeah.
I've got more of the Perrin work the piece you're working on.
Same lesson, different character.
Totally. Okay, then there's this sentence, which again, it feels very Sanderson. I don't think Jordan would ever lay out the features of the Ajahs this clearly, but she had to be as logical as a white, as thoughtful as a brown, as passionate as a blue, as decisive as a green, as merciful as a yellow, as diplomatic as a gray, and vengeful as a red. And it really sort of gives you this like an adjective to go with every single oddjaw that sort of describes it in one word. And I don't think Jordan would have ever broken it down that way.
I kind of wish he had, though, particularly vengeful as a red. I really was like, oh, that's the positive, value neutral thing that is the red, because they've been so the villain this whole time, but like clearly they have a function. And when this line, vengeful, because vengeance is not necessarily always negative, right?
Right. If you're wrong,
like judgment and justice, and like there's these things that can be weaponized or can be really powerful. And I kind of wish Jordan had been just slightly more direct once about this. I felt this was against Sanderlanche in like he's putting a bow on it.
Right.
So I kind of liked it because I was like, we are in put a bow on it part of the book. But yeah, Jordan would never be this direct, and I kind of...
No, because I feel like it breaks them down into, houses, right? Potter houses and stuff like that, right? There's these very simplistic single adjective descriptions where he's like, no, they have these different meaning. Like the green is all about loving people, but also battle and passion, and like passion's in there. But here, decisive as a green and passion is blue. I don't know. It's just, there's Jordan is always going to have a nebulous, fuzzy definition, and Sanderson's always going to put that in very stark, hard lines in black and white.
Yeah, it's a very Sanderson line. I agree. It felt very like, oh, okay, I can tell Sanderson. But also, it's kind of cool because you're like, so this is how Sanderson sees them.
Yes.
This is the one-word summary of how Sanderson is going to approach writing them as a character class, and it's an appropriate time to put that in there. It felt right in terms of the way that she's thinking about stuff from a bird's eye view. But yeah, it's Jordan would never be so direct. No, never ever.
And what do you think about his like white, logical, sure, thoughtful brown as opposed to like research?
I mean, I would say that being thoughtful is part of research, like really sitting back and considering something from all angles and not leaping to conclusions, but actually like playing out each hypothesis and then making a choice is very brown.
Passionate for blues.
Causes, right? People who are really into a cause tend to be really passionate about that cause. Decisive for greens, I was a little perplexed by. Like, I guess that's an attribute of being a general, is being decisive.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're in a battle, you have to basically make decisions and stick with them because you don't get to have a chance to second guess your decisions. So that's where decisive would come from, the battle part of the oddjaw. Like, you have to make decisive decisions in a battle. Also, you can't unfuck somebody, so you got to be pretty decisive about
it. True. Merciful as a yellow makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
For
healing and mercy, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes, the concept of a mercy killing, the concept of putting someone down humanely, like with pets, like that fits with medicine, triage and, care for the living and abandon the dead, like palliative care. All that feels very yellow.
Ideally yellow. Right? Like, these are all the ideals of what we think the oddjaws should be.
But again, this is Egwene thinking about the institution in its highest, most rarefied ideal. This is her saying, in an ideal world, and Amyrlin is the highlight reel of the best qualities of the oddjaws. That's the context this paragraph comes about. And she's not describing the women. She's describing the archetypes.
And it kind of goes well with her being asked by every oddjaw to join them.
Exactly. Later in this chapter, they look around and say, who encompasses all of our interests is Egwene. So it makes sense to have her thinking about them as an institutional summary just before that POV switch.
So she's basically, the next big chunk is her thinking about strategy, right? She's like, I can't go back in as a novice, right? I can't reconstruct the situation that was working so well for me. Now that I've been pulled out, going back in would seem, stupid or arrogant.
Which, agree.
Yeah, and yeah, totally. And it's taking her down the thought path of, okay, I need to stop messing around. I can't bring it down from the inside. I'm going to have to bring it down from the outside. I'm going to have to invade with my soldiers, and I'm going to have to attack the White Tower. Sort of that thought process that she goes through.
And that there's a time limit on when that attack will work, right? Because part of the reason why they did the siege was because a frontal assault would be so expensive. It would be so deadly. And because of the Seanchan attack, she now has a imbalanced set of forces, right? She now has a fresh army while the tower is bloodied. And that hasn't been the case up until now. And she only has 2 or 3 days before they go back to the impasse from before she was captured. So she has to be as decisive as her idea of what a green is to figure this out, because like there has been before, it's been, well, we'll figure this out eventually. Now there's a ticking time clock.
It's eventually, you know.
Yeah, eventually is here. We're here now.
And so she heads out, right, basically to make her announcement. And there's Gawain to interrupt her. This is such a like... I want to deal with you now, later, Gawain. And he's like, no, deal with me now. And she's like, it's not a good time. And he forces her to deal with him anyway. And of course, he doesn't get the answer that he wants.
And he's like, well, I've sacrificed so much. I've waited so long.
Oh
and
my
it's
God,
like, sir, I have a career that lives depend on. Can we please talk about this later? He's like, but my fifis. It's like, sir, do you want to be a supportive partner to a powerful woman who's got like nations level control, or do you want to be taken care of constantly? Like, make up your mind.
This has all the feeling of some shitty boyfriend trying to get his like print t-shirt business off the ground and preventing his surgeon wife from going in and like saving lives while there's an organ on the table that has a timeline that needs to get into a new person before it dies. And he's like, wait, I need some help with my t-shirt business. You know, and she's like, not right now. Now's not a good time, right? Like,
yeah, basically.
Just, the shittiest boyfriend who thinks that his things, whatever he's thinking about, is more important than whatever she's doing, even though she's a far more important person in this society. And he's like, no, stop doing what you're doing and talk to me.
Yeah. And he's like, I've waited for months. She didn't know you were waiting for months. She assumed that you went off to help support your sister. Like a smart person would have, like a halfway holding to their oaths person would have. She assumed that you had a job and you were doing it and you'd manage to connect later. She didn't know that you were waiting for months. She has no obligation to you. Like, yeah, it's such shitty. And I mean, again, he's young, he's a dumbass, he's the age when most people are shitty boyfriends, but like, oh my God, she is like, I'm going to have to order a group of people I care about to kill another group of people I care about. But on the way, I have to show that some of my closest advisors were actually working for the literal dark side the whole time. No, I don't care that you've been all up in your feelings parked in a cow town. Like, no, you aren't in the calculus right now. And if you can't respect my need to talk to you later, like, why are we even in a relationship? Like, I wish she had dumped his ass because he wouldn't let it go right here. God. Yeah,
his whole, I was worried about you, and that worry was what I was asking of you. Like, I wanted you to not rescue me. I was told you not to rescue me. Suan said not to rescue me, but because you were just a little bit worried and you didn't want to feel uncomfortable, you had to come in there and you didn't want to have anxiety about what might happen to me. Like, you pulled me out of a situation that I now have to figure out that may now cause me to attack the other half of the tower and turn the one thing she doesn't want to do, turn two halves of the tower against each other. Aes Sedai shedding each other's blood. Like, before the last battle, it is the worst possible outcome. And here Gawain is the one who kind of caused that to happen because he didn't listen to her orders.
Because he didn't trust her enough to do the thing. And yeah, they're not even really in a relationship. They're in a sort of, we're going to talk about it later. And he's like, I need to talk about it right now. It's like, no, sir, by your own admission, you've waited for months. You can wait until this evening when I have a minute.
And then this whole, like, listen, I love you, but, like, as the Amyrlin, I'm pissed at you. Like, you violated my order. And he's like, yeah, but, you know, you're not really the Amyrlin.
Oh, my God. Again, drop his ass right there.
Yeah, that should have been the first. Like, even fucking Matt respected her as Amyrlin more than Gawain does.
Truly. Truly, a man from her hometown that she has a deeply antagonistic relationship with respects her more than her literal wannabe boyfriend husband.
And him being like, but when we left, you were just and accepted. It's like, how can you love this man? How can this man claim to love you when he has not seen any of the growth or any of the things that have happened since you two left when you were, quote unquote, just and accepted?
Yeah.
All the trauma, all the...
He's so handsome. He's just so handsome. He's not pretty like his brother. He's a better kind of handsome.
Mm-hmm.
I literally don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Stop thinking with your 19-year-old brain.
His flaws make him real. His flaws make him flawed.
Yeah, it's like you were just throwing all of your friends under the bus for the sake of an institution, but now you're all aflutter for his jawline. Like you can't care about your friends who just made mistakes because they were worried about you, but you can forgive this man because he's got a cute jawline. Like, ugh.
And also, when you left, you weren't accepted. Now you're Amerlin. He was the leader of the younglings. Now he's just an unemployed soldier.
Right.
He's like, I want to come work for you, so I quit my job. It's like, oh God, all right, fine. You should have kept your job. Now you're just unemployed.
Yeah. Yeah, POV switch. Ready for POV switch? Like she finishes her conversation with Gawain and then heads off to the hall's pavilion tent. And then we POV switch to the literal, well, not the literal hall, but the tower where the hall is.
The only thing I will say is him point where he says, I don't care a whit about Tar Valon, but I know what it would do to you to attack it. And it's like, yeah, and you're the one forcing her into that.
Yeah. It's like one of those like, that's a good point, but not from you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to make that point. It is a good point, but not from you. Not from you. For now, we're going to go to this POV where I confused it with, it's not from Adalorna, it just starts with Adalorna talking. She's very present in this scene, but we are actually in the head of the Brown Aja, Jesse Bilal. And yeah, it's the 5 heads of the Ajas that are still relevant, right? Because blue has been banished and red is currently laying as low as it possibly can. So the 5 remaining Ajas, their heads are together talking about what they're going to do in the aftermath of the attack, because they know that Elaida is gone. They know that Egwene is gone, right?
The other reason the red's not invited is because the red-headed who was part of this is gone, right? They've got a new head of the Red Aja.
Yeah.
Which, how do they know who's the head of the Red Aja?
I'm guessing they don't, actually. I'm guessing that the Red is currently figuring that out, and they know they're not invited to this meeting anyway, so it's not relevant. Because that's part of what also binds them together, is not just that they're heads of the Ajas, but that they all conspired to send the 2 young sitters to do hall things in both the rebels and the tower camps, and they kind of are the architects of that whole conspiracy. So it really doesn't make sense to bring in someone who wasn't part of that conspiracy as they sort out what to do in the aftermath.
And this is the answer to the Suan's 2 young sitters thing that we've seen in both the tower and in the rebels. Like, what was going on? How did that happen? They lay it all out here, which is basically they elected young sitters so that when they thought that the rebels would be easily cowed and they'd be able to bring them back together, and those young sitters would just go back to being sisters again with no fuss, muss, or issues.
Yeah, they literally thought that they could end the rebellion quietly with no more damage than a few bruised egos. And now, after all this, they're like, maybe we shouldn't have allowed Elaida to disband the Blue.
You think?
That might have been a step too far. And it's like, yeah, there are lines in the sand, and you need to be very unequivocal about when those lines get crossed, right? Like when you do a thing that is empirically illegal, immoral, and against the long-term stability of the system that you claim to support, you need to call it out then and there, not 6 months later.
But it's all Black Aja, right? Why was the Blue banished? I mean, some of that was Elaida, but some of that was the Black Ajah really going out and about making sure that...
They proposed it, but non-Black Ajah sitters and Ajah heads and other people all supported it because, we got to not rock the boat. We got to compromise. We got to play nice. We got to not be absolutist. We got to compromise. Just one little concession. It's just a symbolic concession. It won't actually lead to the complete and total power of dictators taking over everything. But
I'm wondering how much would they have been able to actually talk the rebels back into the fold and do it quietly if it weren't for the Black Ajah and the Forsaken on either side trying to keep them apart?
No, I mean, definitely the Black Ajah and the Forsaken are hugely to blame, but these women are not Black Ajah, and they are very responsible for allowing Elaida to disband the Blue. Jesse thinks we shouldn't have let her do that. You should have stood up when the bad things were happening, and you should have been loud and unequivocal and brave about calling out bullshit when it happened the first time, instead of waiting until everything's on fire to go, oops, I guess we shouldn't have done that.
I mean, I can't think of any modern world realistic parallels where a congressional powerful body should be taking steps to stop a powerful figurehead from doing terrible things. And then when they don't, and shit goes bad, they say, maybe we should have done something earlier, but it's too late now, so we're still not going to do anything.
Yep.
No modern examples come to mind.
Yep. Definitely not. To quote Jesse, don't be mad at us, we're just the messengers, which is often the role of the Brown. We're the librarians, we read a lot, that's all. We're just communicating information.
Hey. This rhymes with that history thing. And if it keeps going the same way, we predict this, and this. Oh my God, we were right. Just the messengers.
They're just pattern recognition, that's all.
Yeah, I'm talking about Canada. Yep, definitely.
And then here's one of the best lines. And what good will it do to blame one another? Are we so childish that we will spend this election period of time of your choosing, squabbling about which one of us will hang in a useless attempt to evade our responsibility? Just take the fucking responsibility and actually act on it. Evading responsibility is not the fucking point. It's way past the time to worry about who's responsible in a nitpicky way, and time to just do the thing that you are responsible for fixing. Again, no parallels, just the books. Just
the books. So Elaida's been taken by the Shan-Chan, and they were deciding we are not going to try and attempt to rescue. One, because it's just not feasible, and two, we don't really want to. Which... Yeah.
Which, again, if Egwene had been taken, they would have gone, oh no, we have all the will in the world and not the resources. With Elaida, there's no will. Even they're not even going to feel bad about moving on from that decision.
It's like when Galena was like, surely I will be rescued. They're going to send lots and lots of people after me. And nobody gives a shit. Nobody even knows Galena's been taken. Yeah. Right. Like
the Black Ajah doesn't care. The Red Ajah doesn't care. Nobody cares. Yeah. It's very parallel. Very parallel.
So then we decide to pick, they throw out a couple of S names for Amerlin, because why not?
I mean, none of them are going to get taken seriously. Right. Why not go to the S names? Bin?
Right. Cian, Saren. I mean, we've gone over these names a million times. Suana.
Yeah, they basically throw out some names. They consider, what if it's one of us? And
Sarancha. There's a lot of S names in this chapter.
Yeah. Sarancha, who I always am like, Sriracha? What?
Yeah, that's same.
Like, why is there a sauce as an Aes Sedai? I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It's a fine sauce, but like...
I mean, you pick enough names, eventually you're going to get some overlap with some real words.
Right. And they talk about how it should be possible to resolve the rebellion now that Elaida's out of the picture, because the rebellion was against Elaida.
Right.
So if Elaida's not around, then maybe we have a reason to stop with this staring match. Maybe we can back away.
It was, right? They declared war on Elaida specifically, right? On the person, not
on the false Amerlin, Elaida Dovrinia Royhan. Not on the tower, not on the Amerlin seat as an institution or an office, but specifically on the woman.
Legally, Egwene doesn't have a foot to stand on with Elaida being gone to attack the tower.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's every reason for the people who want this conflict to be over to finally get what they want. Elida really was the sticking point in a lot of ways. And yeah, they're like, we don't know who to pick except for the one person who's super, super obvious. Okay. Yeah, we should do the obvious one. Sure.
Right.
Like, they really don't debate about it. Once they realize that there's only one choice, they're like, well, she has done the work to be the only choice.
They all put forth their own, like, oh, I want my Ajah's leader to be the person. And they all pick someone from their own Ajah and go, oh, crap. Like, no one is going to let us gain power by either picking someone in this room or someone from one of the Ajahs. So we have to pick someone from no Ajahs. And someone who's done the job before, even if it's illegitimate. We have to admit,
that everyone already knows.
Yeah. And you know, unspoken is she spent the last however many weeks impressing all these people, giving them advice. Like, we've seen her in the rooms with these women and they've taken advice from her. And it's like, yeah, they probably think she is a legitimate Amyrlin. And they say that.
She's been
They're
doing
like,
the job.
She's been doing the job. They're like, if we raise this person, this is not a puppet. This is not someone we're trying to control. This is someone we're going to enable to be the best Amyrlin she can be.
Yeah. I mean, she's already been proving it from like the way that the rebellion, you know, she's managed that great. She came in and has just been doing the job, even though we keep denying her the ability to, like, what if she actually had us all behind her and had the power? Like, we wouldn't be able to stop her, but we wouldn't want to either. So, you know.
And also just like how badly the plan failed of like, oh, we tried to get a bunch of women we could control. Instead, it was like trying to herd cats and we failed miserably.
Yeah. And here's someone who has empirically proven she can herd cats. Like, she's been herding us, the cats.
And dealing with Elida more effectively than us.
And will be acceptable to the other half. Right. That's the thing, too, is not just acceptable within any given camp, but acceptable to both camps. Like, that's a unicorn. That's a literal unicorn.
And it essentially fixes the schism because it's like, oh, we've elected the same leader. Right. Like.
Yeah, it truly was Elida the whole time. Elida was the entire problem. She's the one that deposed the old Amyrlin. She's the one that created an irreconcilable rift. And once she's gone, it's possible to reconcile. It's possible to reinstate the blue, to formally apologize for all wrongs done, to wipe the slate clean. Like, it's unlike in the real world, Elida truly is a one-woman problem. I mean, yes, she has Alviarin and all of that backing her up, but like, it's such a narrower conspiracy in these books than it is in the real world, with the parallels that we aren't making.
And we've seen both in the real world and in these books, declarations made by a leader don't necessarily have staying power because the next leader can come in and just turn those around. So you really need the legislative body to enact those changes in order to keep them in place, even though it's a lot harder.
Right. And so, yeah, if you can get the legislative bodies to be pointed in the same direction, shit can go fast. You can go really fast. You can get a lot done. You can take a giant schism and put it back together in relatively short order once everyone's pointed in the same direction. But if they're not, then yeah, you can grind to a halt while still technically moving forward. I mean, we saw that in the rebel camp. Like, you need people to want it.
That's the big difference between a leader and someone who's just the head of something, right? Because a leader will say, hey, I want this thing to happen. We'll go to the legislative body, work with them, make sure it happens, make sure that it gets passed, and make sure that it has longevity. Someone who's just in charge will say, I want to make this happen. I declare bankruptcy, you know, or I declare whatever, you know, makes the declaration. It might last while they're in charge, but the second they're out or the people they chose are out, it just reverts back to the way it was before.
So, yeah, the tower agrees that they want Egwene, but they don't seem to have any urgency on getting the message to her. They don't seem to have any idea that the other side is gearing up to punch them in the face while they're down. You know, they seem to think they have all the time in the world to get this message to the rebels. Meanwhile, Egwene is just holding back the attack as long as she can, just on sheer hunch reluctance. I wish that they were more urgent.
Yeah.
You know?
What's the first thing you think of when a rebel army shows up at your gates? The audacity. How dare they? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
They don't even think about like, oh, maybe we should protect ourselves. It's just like, ugh, they're not even going to bother. No one can stand up to the White Tower. You just got your butt kicked by the Shan-Chan.
I know, right? Like, you are still smoking, ma'am. Your skirts are still literally smoldering. Like, people are not taking you quite as seriously as they were for the next little bit.
So then POV switch back to Suan, right?
Yes, POV switch over to Swan, doing upsettingly heterosexual things, hetero-romantic things.
In the book, she's straight, okay?
In the book, she's bi.
Bi, that's fair. Well,
Yeah, she's bi.
she used to be bi. I'm not sure she still is.
No, she is bi. No, you don't lose your bisexuality by being bisexual. Being bisexual means you can be with men and women. It's just not too bisexual erasure. The fact that she's doing upsettingly hetero things does not erase her bisexuality. It's just upsettingly hetero. Because Bryne is very hetero. Bryne is not queer, I don't think, at all.
I'm just saying the way the author wrote this. The character that is currently being written is no longer bisexual, whether or not the character as
Which
they
is
were
bisexual erasure, so
Yeah.
I disagree. No, if in a world where there isn't an unresolved girlhood crush that was just a phase in college with Moraine, I do actually think that this courtship is very sweet. I do like how Bryne approaches his romantic relationships. He seems like a very nice guy. It's just the weird, it was just a phase in college thing that's just like, ah! But no, I do love Bryne in this whole interaction. It's a very sweet thing if we set aside all the headcanon and all the fandom angst that I've picked up along the way.
So we open with Suan watching Shiriam, basically, which is what her orders were.
Shiriam's last few moments as a free woman.
Yes, as an alive woman.
Yeah, because she seals herself into that tent and she doesn't come out except under heavy guard. Like, yeah, that's Shiriam sealing herself into her final meeting as keeper. But Swan doesn't get to go in because she's not a sitter and it's a sealed, as the title of the chapter says, it is a sealed to the flame meeting. So Swan doesn't get to go in.
Right, because this is the first opening move on taking down the Dark Friends. So she wants to keep that as tight as possible so it doesn't leak out.
And technically Swan already knows more or less what's happening, right? She knows about Shiriam. It's not going to be a surprise to her when this reveal starts. She's going to figure it out sooner than everyone else.
Sure, but that's why it's sealed to the flame, though, is to keep anyone else who's not part of that inner circle from finding out.
Yes.
So kind of what follows is her basically saying, I know I'm going to get pay for last night. I didn't realize how secure her place in the tower was, but I did what I felt like I should, based on the information I knew at the time.
Yeah, which, we can disagree all we like, but the fact is that she does correctly articulate, this is the decision I made based on the information I had. Like, she's not wrong. She did make that decision based on that information, and she can see that she was wrong. She stands by it. We can disagree, but whatever. Reasonable people can disagree.
Which is different than Gawain's approach, which is, he's like, no, I did the right thing. You should thank me for it. Like, he has a totally different opinion.
Yeah, Swan's like, I did the right thing in my opinion, but I can see where Egwene disagrees. Like, I still would make the same decision, but, whatever.
What's the quote? Do what you have to and pay for it later?
Yeah, exactly. Gawain does not understand that. He does not get that if you fuck around, you will find out. Whereas Swan gets it. Swan's like, yeah, I fucked around, and I probably would fuck around exactly the same way again, but yeah, this is what the find out phase looks like. I guess I'll just deal with it instead of being a whiny little brat.
Then she thinks a little bit about the bond and Gareth Bryn. I thought an interesting quote was, there was a helpful clarity to his way of reasoning. Not that he was simple, just less inclined to regret decisions he'd already made. I thought that was an interesting little quote to categorize him. And it's the way she sort of says men in general, but I think Gareth Bryn in particular in this case.
When he's a general, right? We were just talking about decisive as a green, and the greens are the battle, and it's the captain general of the greens. So for him, a general to just be very decisive, very confident in once I've made a decision, I don't second guess it. It's like, oh, okay, internal consistency on the martial attitude. Yeah, it's I don't like framing it as a men versus women, but I do like framing it as this is what makes a Gareth Bryn such a uniquely good general and helpful right-hand man in dealing with stuff. Like, this is a really good way. These are people you should seek out. People who can make a decision and not tie themselves into pretzel second guessing it are worth having in your circles. Get you a Gareth Bryn.
And then what follows is probably the most casual proposal, I think.
It really is. And yet it feels perfectly in line with their relationship the way it's been going.
Totally. It's like, what are you going to demand of me? I'm going to demand that you marry me. Well, fine. Wait, was that a proposal and an acceptance?
It's cute. But no, because he says, I'm planning to demand that you marry me, but only once you're ready.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. That's the whole thing of where she's like really feels soft and sweet towards him, is because he's not going to demand that she marry him until she is confident that the world has been saved. He's like, you're not going to say yes until you feel like all of these last battle responsibilities are done. And you will, I know you'll say no at this point. So I won't be demanding that until I know that you'll be able to say yes. And she feels very soft and sweet about that because he's willing to wait for her. And that's really what she needs at this point. And, you know,
they're
it's
engaged
a bummer
to get engaged,
that
basically.
Exactly. They're promised. They're going steady. They're exclusive. They're whatever euphemistic thing they need to put on it. But it's engaged. It's engaged. They're just, engaged to be engaged. And, you know, but they don't get married because the books suck. But, you know, it's still, it's almost part of how you know they're going to die. Right? It's because they're like, well, we're just 1 week from retirement, so we'll be good once we retire. You know, it's like that's kind of what this is.
We can really celebrate
right?
all the hard work. And and Gareth Bryn sucked at retirement in the first place.
True.
Both of them sucked at retirement.
Literally, they're like, I've been retired for 5 minutes. I'm getting hives. Cannot deal.
Suan was forcibly retired, and she figured out how to get her old job back, basically. Be the advisor to her old job, yeah.
They're going to have an amazing not retired retirement. They're going to go into the sunset working together. Just great. Never actually retiring.
We're retired. Then what's this business you run? Our retirement business. Oh, okay.
You know, like literally my grandfather, well, both my grandfather and my grandmother both still work. They still have jobs in the sense that they have responsibilities to other people in an institutional context, but they do it entirely for fun, not for pay. The way they phrase it is they are no longer working for economic gain, right? They're doing what they want to do.
God, that must be nice.
They're rich old people, and they are not just sitting back and watching TV or taking a cruise. They are like writing papers and running workshops, and like they're doing things. They travel a whole bunch. Like,
hey, leave some work for the rest of us.
Nah, they're doing some very niche things. There'll be plenty of stuff for the rest of us. But yeah, it's they are not retired in the sense that they have a full schedule. They have people they're responsible to. They have stuff to turn in. Like, they are working in the world, and they're very happy doing it, and will not be stopping until, like, they're just going to keep going, little Energizer bunnies forever. Like, they're just going to run forever.
God, I can't wait to retire.
They're not getting paid, Nantucket. They're not deflating your salaries. It's just that, like, my grandfather still teaches classes sometimes because people want to learn from him.
But working from free does devalue salaries.
I'm just saying they're not working at things that are getting paid. Like, my grandmother works as an administrator for a nonprofit. Like, no one was gonna get paid for that job.
Yeah. No, it's again, fucking capitalism ruins everything.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing things that capitalism would not support because they have enough money that they can pay for it themselves, right? They can pay to do the jobs that they're doing. But they have very busy schedules as a result, which is cool. What else about Suan and Bryne? That's basically it. Bryne does get her. He talks about how she has such high standards for herself that no one else can set them higher, which, like, relatable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. it's really short POV because we switch right back to Egwene pretty quick.
Yeah, and this is the good part of the chapter. This is the part I've been eagerly anticipating, is this scene where Egwene just absolutely slams the hall with revelation.
We open with the Ajahs had all sent one sitter with the envoy to the Black Tower. So all the Ajahs are missing one sitter. So usually there's 3. And, this is 6 Ajahs. There's no red Ajah, right? With the rebels, so they're missing 6 of the sitters.
Yeah, very diminished haul.
Don't really know who they all end up being. I'm gonna read directly from Encyclopedia Watt here. We can only be certain that Lyrell was one of the delegates. If we make an assumption that the 5 sitters who were violently opposed to the delegation were not sent, then we have the following: Blue, Lyrell; Brown, Janya or Escaralda, thank you. Gray, Norissima.
Nasura?
No, that's not right.
Narissa?
That looks right. Green, Melind or Melin. Wow. Semelin. White, Ealdrin. Yellow, Salita. I don't think there's anything to be gained from figuring out who those people are, just that, that's who went to the delegation. We also find out Myrell, Nyaso, Phelan, and Theodrin are there as well. So,
yeah, there's the one Black Aja that Egwene knows about that's in the thing other than Shiriam. But yeah, we've gone over this hall so many times. And yeah, most of them are just filler.
Yep.
They're just filler. Because only the one of them is Black Aja, it really doesn't matter, right? There's just they are as a body responding to the revelations that Egwene is giving them.
She's keeping an eye on Shiriam, and Shiriam is missing a finger.
Yes, because she didn't get all of the ter'angreal for getting into the dream. She missed one.
Because she was supposed to get 20, right?
Yeah.
And she got 19. My assumption is it's the one that Suan has, because later Suan is tasked with teaching somebody, I forget who, how to...
I think the classes of ter'angreal using Aes Sedai, they're just trying to bring all of them up to speed, and Swan is, I believe... No, I think that was earlier she was teaching. I don't think she's allowed to teach in the second iteration because the hall is so mad that she kept that one dream ter'angreal. But they're also happy she kept it because Shiriam had stolen the other 19.
Mm-hmm.
Or Elaine is really pissed about that because she was the one that made most of them, and now she can't because she's too pregnant to channel consistently.
Yeah, and it's interesting. In chapter 45, they say they're all missing.
Well, right, because one of them was missing, quote unquote, with Lyanna.
Okay.
They thought that one had gotten lost with Lyanna. But
it's actually with Suan. So Suan has that
exactly.
the whole time. Right, okay.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, and then, Shiriam tells Missana they've got that they have 19, so she must have managed to only get 18 of them. Because...
Oh, right.
They had already known that Lyanna's had gone missing by the time that Shiriam is tasked with stealing all of them. So I'm not totally sure. I kind of forget the specifics of how that all went down. It doesn't end up mattering because she gets fucking killed.
Yeah, but my assumption is that somewhere there's a missing ter'angreal.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not quite sure on why.
I don't think it ever pops back up as far as I can tell.
Maybe some other eyes that I was sneaking off with one and we just never saw it happening.
Or he thought he thought that it was the one that Suan had and he didn't realize that the 19 didn't include that one, and so then it's just a plot hole.
I'm confused.
I think it's a plot. I think it might be a bit of a plot hole on the counting of the ter'angreal. Or they just cut off her finger and broke it just because she didn't do it fast enough or something. Who knows?
I don't know. But yeah, Egwene is watching her and being made very nervous by Shiriam existing. She doesn't think about Moria as being someone to keep an eye on, even though she also is Black Aja and will be captured in this confrontation.
And she knew about her ahead of time, right? She notified people that she was going to be a problem, so...
No, she didn't notify anyone.
No?
She only told Swan about Shiriam. And then in this whole scene where she's thinking about how she's anxious about Shiriam, she doesn't once think about being anxious about Moria, which I think is kind of strange, but...
I think it's just how close Sheriam was to her.
Yeah, maybe. Or just the fact that, like, close, like, emotionally or, like, physically.
Both. But emotionally, really. Yeah.
Sure. That makes sense. So, yeah, Romaine is being Romaine. Ramonda's feeling one way. Lelane's feeling the opposite way. Egwene thinks the whole thing is super petty and ridiculous after all the much more intense stuff she's been dealing with at the tower.
Well, because Romaine was like, or Ramonda, I think, was gaining power because Egwene was gone. So now she's all sulky because Egwene's back, and now she's back on equal footing. She doesn't have
No. Ramonda's happy because
okay.
Lelaine was finally winning.
Right,
Lelaine is the one that's sulking because her power was built on claiming authority from Egwene in Egwene's absence, and Ramonda was losing. And now that Egwene's back, Lelaine has to give all that power back to Egwene, and she's sulking hard about it.
But if Egwene had died in the assault, she would have taken over, basically. Yeah.
Right. Ramonda has a chance to get some power back now that Lelaine is no longer the heir apparent. So yeah, they settle down to the meeting, and Egwene immediately goes for the oath rod. She does not have Vora's ter'angreal. She has the oath rod tucked in her sleeve, and she swears the 3 oaths, and then swears that she is not a dark friend, and everyone's brain starts processing.
Like, wait a minute. Okay, why did you say that? Again, this is the one. This is the White Tower oath rod that has the number 3 on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And the other one that is given
111
is 111. So that gives us sort of a range.
Could also be 3 in Roman numerals.
But I'm willing to go with 111 because I think there are that many. Because we also find out that later that there's that I think Moradin has some oath rods that he found in the stasis box. So, and because they were used as a punishment device, my assumption is they're like one in every jail.
Right. We went with a naming system that was like by jurisdiction or something. I always thought it was just like, oh yeah, it's 3 versus 111, but like that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. Either way, it's 2 different ter'angreal, right? So the one in this chapter is the one with the 3 on it, technically.
And then Egwene tells Varen's story without naming Varen, right? She explains it as obliquely as she can. A sister came to me and confessed she was a dark friend. Not saying the whole like deliberately did all the note taking and all that. Just confessed for reasons that we don't need to go into.
Well, she doesn't want anyone looking for that book.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand playing that close to the chest. And then, she kind of goes through the whole spiel, waiting for the inevitable Sheriam embraces the source. Right? Like, it's just a game of chicken, right? Like, who's going to blink first?
And you're also trying to out anyone else who might be scared and grab the source, right? So anyone at that point who grabs the source, you're going to say is a dark friend.
Yeah. And she knows who the dark friends are in the room. Mm-hmm. So she knows who to watch. She thinks. She knows at least 2.
At least 2. She's worried that Varen... At this point, we don't know how accurate Varen is, right?
Right. True.
So it's possible that Varen missed a bunch of them. Now, we know that's not the case, but Egwene doesn't.
Yeah, and she doesn't know for a fact that any of the ones... I mean, aside from the ones that the Black Aja hunters caught, but like she does go through the routine with Sheriam and then think to herself, damn, Varen really was right about you. Like, there is a small part of her that was hoping Varen was wrong.
Right. And getting her to incriminate herself on multiple levels in front of... I mean, it's a brilliant way of showing that this person's actually a dark friend. One, because seizing the power looks suspicious, but it is circumstantial. But then she gets her in a series of questions and gets her to basically Gish Gallop over her oath, right?
Right.
Do you consort with the Forsaken? No. Do you serve the Dark One? No. Have you been released from your oaths? No. Do you have red hair? No. Wait. Yes. Shit.
Right. Which, I am curious if the oaths really can operate faster than thought.
Yeah, because the whole point of you can't lie if you think you're telling the truth. So if you're just responding really quickly to questions like that, you think you're telling the truth because you think that's a legitimate answer. I don't necessarily think that's a lie.
Yeah. On the other hand, everything she said before that was a lie. So, in that regard, keeping with the theme of lying, right? Because all the other questions she was lying. So then you throw in one true question and then she lied. But it's just would that actually work to catch someone? Do the oaths operate faster than conscious thought? I don't know. Feels a little tricksy, but it works for the sake of plot. We don't need to.
Right. But would someone actually choke on that no if they had sworn the oaths? Or would they be able to get it out because they hadn't really thought about the question?
Right. Yeah. You know, the scene with the ferrets where the woman was choking up was not a case of thinking too fast. It was a case of being told to do contradictory things. There was plenty of time to think about it. But also then the way Shiriam reacts, like the whole rest of this interaction, like proves that was a fine.
Oh, totally.
It was a fine catch.
It was a catch. And whether or not that would have caught somebody else, the fact that she's like, oh, you got me. It's like, yeah, okay, then we definitely got you. Right.
Yeah. Then she hands over the oath rod and says, look, I've got an extraordinary claim. Would you like to supply extraordinary counter evidence? Because I got a pretty strong mountain of evidence for this claim. You want to defend yourself? And then Shiriam, being the, spineless coward that she is, collapses under the weight of that and says, yeah, you got me. Cards on the table.
Yeah. Which, I mean, and Egwene was like, yeah, the person who came to me said you were a leader.
Right. I know everything. And
we're going to make you swear on the oath rod. So, if you're not, great, swear on the oath rod. We'll keep going. But if you are, then I've got you. And she's like, yeah, you got me. It's very CSI at the end of the episode when they're like, here's the evidence. And they're like, okay, you got me. Let me tell you what's everything.
Right. Which I don't think is necessarily realistic, but it very much fits Shiriam's spineless, ambitious way of approaching things. I believe it of Shiriam, just not of people in general. And then she says, so who told you that? And Egwene just says Varen. Like, I kind of would have thought she would have kept Varen's name out of it entirely, at least for a little longer. But in this context, she's just like, no, it's Varen.
That's a good point, because she's like, oh, yeah, your soul's brown. And here she's like, oh, by the way, Varen was black, everybody. Like, she definitely says that in front of all of the important people, that Varen's the one who told her. Because she does. She walks around it in the beginning. But then here she says it out loud for everyone to hear.
Yeah. I don't... Well, no, but Varen said, my name will be forever associated with the Black Aja, but can you let the Brown know what my actual mission was? So, but it's funny how she walks around it at first and then blows it. Like, I don't quite know what... Maybe she just liked the dramatic reveal. Maybe it was just for the drama. Maybe Egwene's more of a show woman than we realize.
And maybe she didn't want the name just not to trick, because if they knew Varen was black, then it would give them... They'd be like, oh, we are caught. But I think in the beginning, they're like, oh, maybe she doesn't know us, right?
Sure, yeah. Oh, yeah. So Egwene deposits Shiriam off to the side, all bound up. And then Lelane's like, so are there others? And Egwene says, yeah, there sure are. Some in this very room. And Moria immediately tries to bounce. But at that point, the rest of the hall basically body tackles her all at once.
They're like, oh, okay.
Like, absolutely not.
Honestly, I would think nobody should embrace the source. Anyone embracing the source at that point is like a risk.
Well, Moria leaps to her feet and runs for the exit. Mm-hmm. And then all the other women channel to catch her. And then Ramonda tries to be like, really? They're both from the blue. Does that mean something? And Egwene says, it means that statistics are real.
Yeah, it means there's more blues supporting me. So, yes.
They're all here. So the odds are that, yeah, we're going to have more blues in this camp come out as black than all the other Ajas. Once we merge with the tower, it should get down into normal proportion. But yeah, more or less, math is real.
Right, because you have twice as many blues there, so you're going to have twice as many blue dark friends.
Yeah, the other Ajas are split, so you've got half the dark friend potential per Aja for everyone else. And then she offers Romaine, in order, the chance to be the first and second women to re-swear the oaths. She, they can't both go at the same time, but she does give them the honor of being number one and number two on proving that they are, in fact, just ambitious people on the side of the light rather than actual dark friends. And then Egwene says, now we can stop bickering about bullshit. We can just cleanse ourselves and get on with the business of defeating Satan, which starts with merging the tower. First we purge ourselves, then we merge with the tower, then we purge the tower, then we figure out what the hell to do with the Dragon Reborn. It's more or less the plan.
Yeah, 200, some from each Aja, 70 among us here in this camp.
Yeah, so roughly half here and half in the tower and a vanishing margin that's elsewhere.
It's about a third, right? If she has over 200, 70 makes a third.
Yeah.
So, which is the split of the sisters in the tower, in the hall, and out elsewhere.
Right. Being a dark friend does not dictate how you're going to split on other things. It just means that you are everywhere. Dark friends are everywhere in every group, with the exception of the kin for some reason.
Yeah, that's always okay. They just, yeah.
I don't buy that, but whatever. It's canonical.
Well, it makes sense that there's no Black Aja
Sure.
in the kin, but no dark friends? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't buy that, but whatever. Author's choice.
More like a plot hole he fixed by being like, there just weren't any dark friends in there, because otherwise the Black Aja would have known about them, and then the whole White Tower would have known about them.
Yeah. So yeah, the sisters all seem very daunted by the task, but Egwene already has a plan. We're going to call in the Ajas one at a time and make them all go through this same PowerPoint presentation and re-swearing process, and we should be able to catch everyone who's a dark friend. I have a list of names to check it against, but we'll also catch anyone who's not on the list, which I think she says they do catch one or two that Varen had missed.
A couple. And some slip away. She doesn't get them all.
And some slip away, yes.
But think about it, per Aja, that's like 12 sisters per Aja that they're trying to capture. Like, so if there's 70 in the tower, divide that by 6, right? That's 12. So there's 12 dark friends per Aja. Like, you need the whole hall to take them prisoner. That's actually, you need all these sisters to do the work of taking. I mean, hopefully, I think your hall is going to be your more powerful channelers in general, but... Sure.
But still, it's a big ask to be like, we're going to bring several dozen women in here at a time and pick out the dozen dark friends from that group.
And hope nothing goes bad. There's no chaos.
We're going to do that 5 times over for the day. That's just what we do today. For 5 times, we go through this whole process over and over with a large group of women, looking for a not insignificant fraction of them who are actually like murderers and devil worshippers and all that stuff.
Yeah. The fact that like that group doesn't get out and talks to the other ones and be like, oh, what just happened? Oh, well, they got the dark friends out. Like, it's kind of remarkable that goes, it's off screen, right? So we assume it goes smoothly.
Yes.
We're told it goes smoothly, but that's one of those things that I think about the logistics of how you would actually do that. Smooth is not the word I'm thinking of there.
No, you just go with a lot of sealed to the flame and intimidation and move too fast for people to lose their adherence to their promise to be quiet. It's risky, but yeah, it's all off screen, so we don't get the drama of all the close calls that inevitably happen during that process. And we do know that a few people get away and Egwene doesn't know how. One assumes it's that lack of smoothness that you're pointing at, that's how.
They talk about how to deal with the warders, because some of them are dark friends, some of them aren't.
They're all going to respond badly to their Eyes to Die being imprisoned.
They're all going to be suicidal, yeah. So I think they say like the legitimate ones, they tell them you have an opportunity to throw yourself into the last battle and basically commit suicide by attacking the dark one.
Yeah, I believe they do put together a sort of like a blood knife team, essentially. Yeah. Of like, if you can hold off your suicidality for a few more days, we will throw you into the thick of it and you can die doing something useful, please. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of them must do that because they are warders, right? They do care about the tower.
Well, and can you imagine being a For the Light warder, finding out your sister that you were dedicated your whole life to was Black Aja?
And now her lying ass has you suicidal because she had to be executed. Like, yeah, the levels of betrayal there, like that would really make you question your purpose.
Mm-hmm. And everything you've ever done. Everything you've ever done for your whole life to support that sister, you realize was actually supporting the Dark One.
Right. I mean, like that might drive an honorable soldier man to suicidality without the loss of the bond. Right. So, yeah, go throw yourself into the fight where the good guys are losing and get them out with your last breath would probably be very appealing to those guys, feeling like, yeah, their entire career protecting this woman was in defense of the Dark One. Ugh, God, that would suck.
But then what do you do with the ones who are dark friends and don't want to throw their lives away? Like,
you just kill them.
But how do you sort them out? How do you sort them out?
Oof. Yeah.
Because they all say, I'm on the side of good. I had no idea.
Oh, man. Yeah, we never get a scene that articulates those troubles, but that would be difficult. That would be difficult. I don't know. I don't know how they deal with that. And then
I think the readout,
yeah, the readout is them deciding we're going to assault the tower by tonight. We're going to spend the day purging ourselves, and then we will this evening initiate the assault. And yeah, that's what the readout is. So I'm going to do that. Once we have cleansed ourselves, Egwene said, then we can do what must be done to reunify the Aes Sedai. You mean, yes, Lelaine, Egwene said. I mean to begin an assault on Tarvalin by this evening. Pass the word and tell Lord Bryn to prepare his men. The news will serve to distract the black members among us, and will make them less likely to notice what we are doing. Ramonda glanced at Shiriam and Moria, hanging in the air at the side of the tent, both weeping openly, mouths bound with gags of air. It must be done. I put forth a motion before the hall to take the action that the Amyrlin has suggested. The tent grew still. Then slowly, each woman rose to give consensus. It was unanimous. Light preserve us, Lelaine whispered, and forgive us for what we are about to do. My thoughts exactly, Egwene added. Mentally, I might add. Those were in italics, not quotes. And yeah, there we go.
Pretty dramatic. This is the consequences of Varen's quest, right? This is where we get to see all the hard work that Varen did pay off. And so I think that's what I really like about this scene is this, like, we are taking down the Black Ajah, we're taking down Shiriam, we're taking down Moria, and then, you know, when we come back to it, it's done. But that is very satisfying to be like, okay, we can finally trust the White Tower again, to not be full of evildoers or backstabbers. Like, everyone actually wants to win the last battle going into the last battle, and that was so key for the lights, for the side of the light. Can you imagine if they got in the last battle and in the middle of it, half the Aes Sedai turned on the other ones, right? Like, at the same time that the Sharans popped in, like, that would be the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how present Varen is in this scene. You know, Egwene thinking about Varen, I wish you could have had the oath rod, and Varen told me this about you, Shiriam, and Varen told me that about how they're organized. And it's just, yeah, Varen is so present, being like, this is what I did. This is what I wanted. This is what I intended. This is how Egwene is choosing to use my information. You can just feel Varen being like, yes, continue.
And this was one of the suggestions, right? You try and seize them all at once, like, and that's basically what she's doing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, the sitters know that Varen is what is allowing this to all be unraveled. You know, we hear about how Egwene snuck back into the tower to get the ter'angreal and the books. She has the books now. She didn't let those stay in the tower.
No, she got the books, the ter'angreal. Do we know if she has Voron's ter'angreal?
I feel like she would have. No, Swan has it. Swan used it to get them out, so it's in the camp already.
That's right. Swan took it off of her. That's right.
So, yeah, that was a really exciting conclusion chapter. We are Sanderlanching fully at this point. I think we're Sanderlanching the rest of the book.
Yep. I think we've got one more single chapter with Rand, and then we've got a couple of double headers that I think pretty much bring us right to the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me look at where we are in this book. Yeah, a Rand, and then we go back to Egwene and do the reunification of the tower as a double header, and then just a lot of standalone veins of gold, basically.
I'm so excited. This has been an interesting and rough book to get through in a lot of ways, but man, the good stuff has been really good.
Yeah, it's the weirdly inconsistent in quality, right? Like it feels like two authors in a way that I didn't notice before. Because
it feels like a handoff. The handoff is shaky and trembling, and the new author is not sure what he's doing yet. And yeah.
And there's like bits of brilliance in there, but yeah, it's still not as polished as I remember it being, I think, is the way I would describe this book.
Yeah, my opinion has always been that this book is significantly rougher than the next two.
Mm-hmm.
Like by the time you get to Memory of Light, the handoff is smooth and controlled.
You're right.
And
yeah, much
everything's
better.
Good. Next book is so much better than this book, just in terms of that shakiness. Like he's trembling in these ginormous boots that Robert Jordan left behind in this book, and he is much more confident once he has one book behind him and he gets to book 2.
Yeah, rattling around a little bit inside those big footsteps. Yeah,
they're big boots. Robert Jordan was a very tall man. Like Sanderson's tall too, but like when he got brought into this, he was very early on in his career.
And the other thing to realize is like there's a lot of Perrin going on in the background too that's happening at the same time as all of this is going on, right? All Perrin's story, because we go back to his story and move up to Veins of Gold again.
Right, and that is because it's all Sanderson. There's a lot less handoff energy and a lot more just Sanderson being in his element, in his groove, writing essentially fanfic, right? Because of how little guidance he had. So it's like he can just do his best thing without any input. And yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been enjoying this book, but I am looking forward to getting out of the turbulence that is the beginning of the handoff and into the more just Sanderson is finishing these books portion.
And the last battle is just good on itself for other reasons, you know?
It's so good. You could just read the first book and the last book and just skip the whole rest of the series. Just imagine a lot of plot happens in between. Good to go.
Eye of the World and Memory of Light, and that's it.
I mean, I feel like someone should do it. I think someone should do it. Someone should throw themselves on that experimental sword and see what happens.
So get a new reader podcast where it's like, okay, you're gonna read Eye of the World, and then we're not really gonna podcast through Eye of the World because we've done that a bunch. So read Eye of the World, but we are gonna podcast through Memory of Light for the first time with having only read Memory of Eye of the World.
Wouldn't
and see what
wild?
Can you figure out what's happened to these characters in the meantime in the 12 books you didn't read?
Right, like. How would Moraine's return make sense if you didn't know that she vanished? The whole concept of the list is that would be, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last battle is a really, really amazing. There's so much going on there. Anyway, this has been a fun recording. We
Definitely.
should probably power down and move on.
And thank you once again to everybody who is working with us through these last 3 Sanderson books and have been with us through the 11 Jordan books that we've covered.
You all are quite awesome, quite real. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.